Whenever I find myself in a rough season or a rough patch, I always remind myself of where I come from. There's one event that I cannot forget. One day I had about 3 meetings to get to in Sandton, but my car had gone in for repairs. And I basically had to how train from Braamfontein, where I live, to Sandton. But I only had 80 Rand to my name. The return trip to Braamfontein, from Braamfontein to Sandton, was about 58 Rand, 29 Rand per trip, which left me only with 22 Rand to my name. But remember, I need to pay for the coffees because I called the meetings. So anyway, before the meetings, I pray about it. I'm like, the Lord, I don't have the cash, but I really need to have these meetings. So please be with me. The first meeting was around 8 a.m. with a guy from WBHO. We met at the Radisson Blu. I didn't know why he wanted us to meet at the Radisson Blu because I didn't have the money for it. But anyway, we had that meeting opposite the Gau train station. Wonderful meeting. At the end of the meeting, luckily, the guy offers to pay. So I skipped, I dodged the bullet there. The second meeting was around 9 a.m., which was at the F&B Trust at the old CNBC Africa building. And luckily, because that meeting was at the premises of the client, I didn't have to pay for any coffees or drinks or whatever. The trouble came with my third meeting. Obviously, the meeting was going to start around 1:30, and I had finished this meeting at around 10. So that gave me about a 3.5 hour lag. And I was a little hungry because I hadn't had breakfast. That meeting, the earlier meeting, started very early. So I decided to, this is Sandton. I couldn't get myself a cheap meal. So I ended up going to McDonald's, and they had these 20 Rand meals, which basically wiped out any money that I had for a coffee. I only had money to Gau train back to my place. So anyway, my 1:30 then approaches. This lady suggests that we meet at Calcasio. I was still a Johnny-come-lately to Johannesburg. I didn't know what Calcasio was, but it sounded like a really expensive restaurant. Anyway, so this meeting begins around 1:30, 1:35. The waiter asks me what I'm going to have. I order myself a Coke because I know I'm running on low funds. She orders this funny, exotic cocktail that came in this curvaceous glass and curved straws, which, the name of the drink itself just sounded like the end of my reputation because I just knew I wouldn't be able to afford it. And so the meeting continues. We have a great conversation. We find a lot of common ground. It seemed to me that it was going to be a really great and mutually beneficial arrangement. Towards around 2:30, I decided to be the clown that calls the bill. I called the bill even though I knew I couldn't afford it. We call our waiter, who wasn't really giving us attention because it was lunchtime. The guy was running around. We call our waiter, we ask him for our bill. He disappears for a while, doesn't come back. We call a second waiter and we say to him, dude, we've asked for our bill. Can you please get it for us? He also disappears, I guess, in the line, gets lost in the lunchtime rush. After a while, we signaled to another guy who's dressed differently, who I assumed was the manager, and all I said to him was, could we please have our bill? We've asked for it. Is it possible if we could have it? And the guy says, okay. He goes away and comes back with 2 envelopes, Calcasio branded envelopes, and says to us, to both me and Tando, guys, I know we've dropped the ball. It was lunchtime. We kind of got lost in the rush. Please forgive us. And then hands us 2 vouchers from Calcasio and says, I'm giving you these vouchers so that you guys can come back and have a meal, probably in the evening this time, without this lunchtime rush. He gave us the drinks on the house and 250 Calcasio vouchers. This has never happened to me before, and never happened to me since, where I get paid for bad service. This event tells me that there is a specific provision for people who pursue their purpose. It served as inspiration for me in my most difficult seasons. I'm not saying that people should avoid responsibility, but I do think there is a specific favor, a special favor, for people who take leaps of faith despite their personal circumstances.